Hello and welcome to our third Developer versus Recruiter live stream. And we have the three awesome recruiters with us again. You've seen them before. And this time we're going to make sure we stick to topics, answer your questions, and do all that great stuff. And have a bit of, maybe we'll punch up, a little bit polite. But I'm going to let Andrew say hi as well.
I'll say hi because Eddie hasn't actually said what the topics are going to be today.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So there are three areas we're going to try and cover off. We're only doing about an hour, so it's going to be probably 15, 20 minutes a subject. We're going to talk a bit about interviews. Maybe we'll do a couple of pretend interview questions.
Yep.
We're going to talk CVs. So we've got a couple of CVs that were sent to us on a previous stream. So we're going to look at those. And then also, I think we're just looking at the one job description because it will take a little while probably to talk about job descriptions. So we have a job description. We'll also analyse a little bit and discuss that. So yeah, it should be a reasonably interesting stream for those that are, talking with recruiters, interested in how to improve their CVs and what to look out for when they're searching for jobs generally.
And shall we let our awesome guests
let them introduce
themselves and say thank you very much for coming back again for a second time to do this. So I'm going to switch over. Now your camera's on and who wants to start?
Go ahead.
From me. Okay. Yeah, so hi, I'm Katarina. So I've been doing software developers recruitment in Finland. I did it in an agency. That's a short summary again who I was.
And hello, my name is Anna, and I work internally in recruitment and people operations at the moment, but have also worked in the other side, so as an external recruitment consultant.
Yeah, and I'm Leonora again. I've been in recruitment for 3 years, mainly here in London, but of course acting in Germany and Switzerland, so maybe another side to the story.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, let's get started. What should we do first? We've got 3 topics. I should switch to me. We've got 3 topics: interviews, CVs, and job description. Where shall we start? What do you feel like doing? What's the...
Well, you go through the flow of what you normally do. So you start with a job description, right? If you're searching for a job, you would first of all be looking on the internet, looking for a job description, trying to find a job. Then you'd be writing a CV. All right, the CVs we've got aren't for that job, but we could still talk a bit about that CV in relation to a job. And then go on to the interview. So once you've got your CV in, someone says, let's go talk to you, we're interested. What do you then have to say to people?
Let's do it.
Cool. So
it's your screen.
let me get to the right picture
I
first.
almost pressed end, which is not a good button. Okay, so Andrew's screen should be coming up, hopefully. This is from Nordcloud, from Anna's company. So
Quick
thank
shout
you very
out.
much. Yeah, thank you very much for taking your time. Or all 3 of you, thank you for coming, taking your time. But also putting a job description, on a live stream. People get really nervous about sharing these sorts of things, but it's on the internet, right?
It's there.
It's there.
Plenty of these out there. We could just search the internet for an hour finding job descriptions, but let's not do that.
That's for another stream, maybe. Maybe we can search and find some really bad ones. Just call people out on it. Okay.
And to be honest, now we are developing those job descriptions now, so I'm really curious to also get some criticism, some development areas, like what could really, got your attention.
Nice. Oh yeah, that'd be good.
So we can analyse this whole website as well while we're at this.
It might need longer than an hour though.
All right, so obviously we see at the top of the screen the job description, the title is Senior Developer with an Ambition to Grow.
I like that though. I
So-
like that. Ambition to
Grow
grow.
to
right?
what though?
But it's
yeah.
focusing on the developer.
It is.
Rather than-
Development,
It says
yeah.
it's a senior developer and you want to grow, so I'm guessing where does senior developer go next? Is it into architecture? Is it into management? Is it into a CTO type role? What are they trying to grow? Is it just generally learn a different technology? You're now a senior developer. Most senior developers jump around technologies quite quickly.
But I really like that it's focusing on the person applying rather than what can you do for us? It's what can we do
Exactly,
for you? I think
yeah.
that's really good. So anyone watching, steal that and do the same.
In Helsinki full time, right? So if I scroll down the page, it will take a moment to update for your screen, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But I won't read too much. I was going to ask if you want to talk through it yourselves rather than me reading off the job description what I see, unless you want to hear what my opinion is or Eddie's opinion when we see this job description.
I mean, Anna can definitely give a small overview of
I
this
can,
job.
but then I'm thinking I will just give
Yeah, you want to
the
know what we see.
perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then you can tell us how wrong we are.
Maybe I can defend
Okay.
a bit. Then go, this is actually what we mean by this. This is why we worded it like this.
Okay.
I'll let Eddie take the start of the top of the file. What do you reckon? So the intro.
So Nordcloud is here to present other companies' latest technologies and to push the IT industry forward. I think it's great, straight away you've got the goal of what Nordcloud does. You would hope that the candidate does a bit of research, but I don't like to read, so I probably wouldn't have done a lot of research. I probably would have gone to your YouTube page and see what you could kind of tell me. But it's good. In one line, you kind of sit it there, nice and clear. Thanks to the rapid growth, we're looking for developers of various backgrounds and interested from front end to back end and cloud to data engineering. So again, you're showing the areas that it covers.
And there's a lot of success going on at the moment as well, because people don't grow if things aren't going well.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. If keywords like React, Nodes, AWS, Azure, GCP, and serverless sound good to you, then keep reading.
So very much a JavaScript role.
Yeah,
Full stack JavaScript.
Yeah, JavaScript ops.
I think if you wouldn't know that it's a JavaScript job, then you wouldn't
Exactly, you wouldn't
continue
continue.
reading.
Yeah.
So it's good. I think if you said JavaScript, then a lot of people go, oh yeah, I want to do JavaScript.
Yeah.
But then you got a few buzzwords there anyway, because React is still a bit of a buzzword. Serverless is a little bit. Oh,
Press recording.
Eddie.
The stream's
Okay.
fine. It's for post. Post afterwards. I want this.
Okay, I'll carry on whilst Eddie sorts his
I'm
camera
just
out.
gonna press record, that's it.
So yeah, obviously React job, JavaScript heavy, and then we go straight. So there's not much else. And we normally, when I look at job descriptions, it's all kind of we want this skill, we want this skill. So it's quite brief, which is nice.
I think it's
'cause
good.
I think that's concise. It's fairly accurate. AWS serverless. We're probably going to be using Lambda, bit of GCP as well. So it could be GCP functions.
I do like that it doesn't try and list everything, because you're going to get the ninjas and the rock stars. I'm doing that quotes here. Who
But I also
that-
think that this is like this because it's for internal recruitment matters. So whenever we in recruitment would advertise a role, I think we would give even a little bit more detail, like not in the sense of detail of where it is and things, but more of a detail in regards to what we are looking for, just because we
Could
want
be.
to make sure that the right people are attracted to the job that we have currently, while
Sure.
Nordcloud is more like, okay, even if there's someone that is not such a perfect fit, he could still fit into maybe another role that
Another
we have to
role,
offer.
we could grow
We
him,
could
her,
grow him, her to
something.
this and
yeah.
stuff. So I think we have to make a quite like we have to make a kind of distinguished point of view between a company that advertises and then recruiters that advertise a job.
Yes. There's also a fact that this is a full-time role as well. So
Yeah.
if you were looking for a contract role, you'd probably be looking for more specific skills, because
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
contract industry,
Yeah.
they tend to want someone that actually is very much that niche area, because they just want someone to get in, get the job done and get on.
Yeah.
Whereas for a full-time job, you're probably a little bit more flexible. So React, you're not looking for any particular domain knowledge like... I'm trying to think of some of the exact React things. I haven't done React for a little while now. But Axios, for example, for HTTP and that kind of stuff.
Redux.
And Redux and those kinds of things. You're not going to be asking for those necessarily, because you might think, okay, we just want someone that's full-time. There are different things every time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, as I continue to look, it says daily work, solutions we build, work as part of the Nordcloud team, Software Pro team, build applications for our clients. Okay.
Out of curiosity, since last time we spoke, has this changed, or is this what it was originally?
No, we haven't updated this yet. So it was
Oh,
the.
wow. So
it was the
it's
same.
already I think it's really good as a role. Already, as in the
Oh,
job
yeah.
description.
Yeah.
So your newer ones are even better.
Yeah, they will be. Even. I mean, of course, we haven't had this since we started 2011. So of course we've,
No, of
updated.
course,
We've
but I
been
mean-
looking for similar people since then. But of course, then, you change little things and you
Sure.
add some benefits.
But nothing's
and you-
changed. I think we all met up 2 months ago. So
Yeah,
nothing's
not
changed.
since then.
Wow, that's
No.
really good.
So there's a few other bullet points. I'm not going to read every single one. They can be seen on the screen there. Does any of these jump out as me as I glance down them? I'd say that nothing standing out as anything highlighted. Perhaps maybe a bit of bolding or something to say these are particular things that might really catch someone's attention. So you have to read all the detail. And I know for a lot of developers they just scan over stuff. So yeah, but we're probably not great for that unless you're really kind of trying to figure something out and reading heavily. If it was a tech document, we'd read the detail. But yeah, no. So yeah, front end, back end, data heavy.
Yeah, I would just say there we've also highlighted, or not highlighted, we've kind of put there based on your interests, there's a chance to be a customer lead or team lead or architect or developer. So it's always within our organization you can wear those multiple hats, and sometimes it attracts people who want to do this, and then sometimes it doesn't attract because you don't want to be the project lead and this and this and this and that. So It's a little bit.
But there's also, that's where it says at the top, that ability to grow, right? So if you want to grow it, the opportunity's there.
Yeah.
But obviously it's down to the individual. Not everyone, some people are just happy with what they do. I mean, I know I went into senior roles and thought, you know what, it's not for me. So you can say I dropped back down, but I feel it's not going down. It's just good. It's just different.
It's just a sidestep.
I think it's just
a bit different.
moving different aspects.
I'm just jumped down the page a bit, and I'm seeing learn more working at cloud developer in Leo's interviews.
Yeah. So I guess
that
that must be a video if I open that up, is it?
Yes.
New tab.
That's really impressive.
Actually sharing what happens during an interview.
Yeah, I think that's really good that it goes above and beyond.
Oh, it's a blog post by the looks of things.
There's one interview from one of our developers, Leo, who is kind of explaining what he does on a daily
That's
basis
really
and
good.
what sort of project he's worked with and things like that.
I think that's really, really good. I think it's really forward thinking, right? Most places don't do this. Have you seen? Because you're an internal recruiter. Was it internal or external?
External.
External and external as well, right? So have you seen many places like that? I haven't seen any.
No, I
see a
mean,
couple.
what I see quite often is that they just describe a little bit the company culture in a video or something.
Okay.
And then there's some people that just say, I have been in this company now for 3 years and we have this amazing blah, 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 and this and this. And so they explain it a little bit from their point of view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the company culture stuff, I think they can just say what they want,
Yeah.
and then I've seen so many places that they go, oh, the culture's amazing, it's gonna be great, and the friends starting new jobs, and they start like 1 month later, they go, shit, this is a toxic ass place. And it's just like, so I don't know. I think with the videos, it's good. I think it's good to show that, but still no guarantee. I think it's really good if you can meet someone at a tech event who works there or who has worked there.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's great that how we met Anna at a tech event, because wait a second, so I don't have to meet someone that kind of works there. I am meeting someone that works there, and it's just, you know, I think that shows a lot straight away as well.
And then going back, you've got them project examples as well. So it's not just an interview. There's some examples of actual projects. So if I open that tab up. So I did scroll the previous one just so anyone watching the video can hopefully pause the video in the future, read the content a little bit. But yeah, again, European major manufacturing, you can see full case studies. In fact, there's several case studies. There's a whole page on the website that just tells you about the different projects. So it's good to link through to that because, again, if I was back in the perm world, I probably would want to see what are the sorts of things am I going to get exposed to. So
I think it's also good making
shows
it
the
easier, right?
how much difference there is as well. There's loads of things that are going on.
But you're making it easier for the developer. That's why I don't understand like places when they say we've got the best framework or the best API. I won't mention any names of a client we're working client we're working with at the moment. It's amazing. It's really easy to use API, latest technologies. How do I get your documentation? Well, if you register here and sign in here, we'll give you a token over here. I just want the documentation just to see it. It's like a mission.
Yeah.
Let alone trying to use it. Whereas this, you've kind of just put links to an interview, be it a blog post or a video to projects. I think again, you're just making that shows that you're organised. You're thinking about the person, about their time. I think that's really important. I'm liking this already.
Good
Motivation
to
to
hear.
learn and grow. Strong senior skills. Again, mentioning the ones that were at the top. So same list of skills. That's good. It's not suddenly changed to something completely different, which I have seen on CVs.
Which happens, yeah.
Seen on job description. Varying roles. The ability to travel to. So there's an expectation here that you're going to be travelling around Finland and other parts of Europe. So to bear that in mind, there are often jobs with travel expectations. That's fine. A lot of people quite enjoy that. So I'm guessing this might be a little bit of a consultancy type role in that case. It could be consulting with people.
But it's also good that you specify it, because I remember a couple of contracts back, Andrew had one that was based in London, but he didn't spend any time in London. He spent most of his time up north. And
No.
it was really
Newcastle,
annoying,
yeah.
Because every week having to stay away from your family and all the rest, it's like, well, just say that
Exactly, yeah.
in the role. And I
I
think
think it was the
really
second
great.
day I was there. They said, right, next week you're off to Newcastle for the week.
And then you thought it was a one-off, and then it just became every week.
Yeah,
And it's just
norm,
like,
yeah.
There's no point hiding that, right? If someone doesn't enjoy that, they're not going to apply. And if they do apply and get a job and you don't tell them,
Then they're gonna leave.
All it
Yeah.
meant was that when there was an extension coming up and they wanted me to keep on going, I said, look, it wasn't what I was
Expecting.
expecting at the start. I continued to do it because I agreed to do the contract, but I'm not taking a renewal, and that's no good for them, no good for me
Yeah.
necessarily. And
Yeah.
everyone leaves with a slightly sour taste in their mouth, you could say. So the clearer you can be and as transparent as you can be. I know things change with time, but from
Sure.
day two, you should have known that. And then, yeah, it goes on again. There's a lot of stuff to read on here. It tells you a lot about what
But
you're
it's
going to get
useful.
back.
I think it's quite concise. I mean, what does everyone else think? We're kind of hearing a lot from our point of view as developers. I mean, as other external recruiters, what do you think? Does this look similar to what you see? And when you get so if I was hiring, which we actually always are, but so if I was hiring and I gave you a job description, would you change it before you pass it out? You would.
Yeah, of course we would. We would
Okay.
change it 100% because, of course, it's bad to say, but we make money if you don't recognize the job, right? Because if you as soon as you recognize the job, you can just go and apply yourself.
If it's an
Okay.
open
If
end.
it's an open-end job, of course. But of course we have some exclusive roles as well. That
Sure.
happens too. But more than often you would get a job description from your client, and they also don't want to be recognized because otherwise too many people will probably apply or whatever. So
Right.
what we do is we strip it down. So we take out the most important things that are. Of course, we have a half an hour chat with the client as well. They then tell us exactly what they're looking for, so we can add something that maybe wasn't in the job description that was important to us, or we can leave something out, or we can add something, and we amend it quite a lot actually, just so that it's not as recognizable, I would say.
Yeah, because I would say like a lot of stuff like what externals do is like you kind of add to it, like what can you give more before the interview. So we leave a lot of stuff, and because we're also looking for many roles, so you kind of want to talk to many people. So yeah, I know for some like it's annoying in a way to see those and like what are you looking for? Give me the role, give me the company, give me the salary. And yeah, I know it can be frustrating to have a conversation, but we want to also, because like internals are looking for many roles, but also externals are looking for many roles, and we kind of interview to get to know you, what are you looking for, and then we can like, oh, these jobs could be interesting for you, and then we talk more about the roles, and then we get the ad to it, like these kind of people they have, and we can have that kind of external view of the roles, a bit like of people and how it is, and compared to other companies, what maybe internal, it's different.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the same thing if, for example, we have exactly the same role from two different companies, so like senior developer, and they have the same kind of profile, but for one company they have to travel a lot, and for the other one not. So we don't necessarily specify if you have to travel or not, and then we tell you on the phone though, because that's why we do our interviews that we will discuss later, but that's why we do them, to also understand you in the best way, to understand your needs, to help you as well, and to have as many options as possible for you. And yeah.
Yeah, and I know, having been on the other side of recruiting people as well, we went through a big drive, and I'll mention some names. We were working for Delarue probably 8 years ago, so because it's so long ago, I'll mention the name. And I think we were going through a recruitment drive. It was maybe, 30, 40 people we were hiring?
44.
Right, 44 is what the team ended up going up to. The team was 44 in the end, but yeah, when we joined, I think there was about 7, and it had to expand to 44 in the space of about 6 months. And we talked to the internal recruiters, and the recruiters were like, okay, look, we can probably fill a few of them, but there's so many, we need to get some external people involved. So we literally brought in, I think it was 6 external recruitment agencies, and gave them the job briefs for each of the roles. We said we want 5 of these, 4 of these, 3 of these. And about a week later, I thought, I'll go look around, see how easily I can find some of these. And it was interesting how differently they'd all been written up by all the different agencies. And there were a couple you could say, oh, that's the same job. But interestingly, there were plenty you could look out there and you go, and even though I could recognise them myself and go, yeah, I recognise that is one of the roles I'm looking for, if I was looking at the two next to each other, they do look so different. So it's amazing how abstract and different everyone's take is on it, even when you're giving them all a fairly straightforward brief, say this is what we're after. And then obviously if you looked at the internal adverts that were going on, and you were to have found the internal one, you probably could then see that they were all the same job. But yeah, it's fascinating how that all happens when you sit on the other side of the table and you see all these agencies going out there recruiting for people.
And it's their interpretation of it, and then it's also, when the candidates look at it, it's their interpretation of what got interpreted. So it's kind of like that kind of chain, I suppose. So I think keeping things concise and clear is really good, rather than having waffly kind of stuff that's just like, how does that mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. Cool. Okay.
So if I go back to the screen, I'm not sure that there was a great deal more on here now. It was literally, that last summary was what you're being offered. So leading edge projects, high skilled other people to work with, so you're going to learn lots. Advanced technologies, well, it's hard to know whether they're advanced or not when you say that. Everyone says we're working with the best and latest technologies.
And it's changing all the time as well.
It is. It's a moving target. So
It is quite
what
hard.
might be today, but in a year from now, how well are you keeping up to the game? But
True. Sports, culture, lunch, public transport, benefits.
great
Some
tech
fun.
equipment. You get a high-end laptop and a smartphone. I hope you get one of these.
Yeah. But I think it's good, right? So there's nothing worse. I'm going back to my permanent days a long time ago, where you've got a nice bit of kit yourself, and you get there, you know, you can't use yours. This is going back like 10 years or so. You go, well, use this, and you get this brick. It's like, mine's much better than yours. I use mine. I really can't for security reasons. It's like, that's the stupidest thing ever, because there's like obviously so many things to security. But I hate that. And so what you would do is just copy the files over, you know, at home. You just use your right, when you're at work, you use theirs, and that
But it's
makes
good.
it less secure because now you've
Yeah.
got memory cards involved rather than just doing it properly. Developers always find workaround.
But the thing I think that's quite nice is there's almost something for everyone. I mean, for me, if I was looking down that, it's things like the conferences and being able to attend some of that and being allowed to do that, because that's the last thing that's listed. For me, that would probably be the number one thing that I'd be interested in. Are they're going to support going to conferences, doing that kind of stuff, getting involved in the community? The great tech equipment, yeah, great. Well, I've got my own laptop. I mean, if I was moving from contract to perm, I'd probably want to be able to use my stuff rather than what would be issued. So it's all
Yeah.
very different. But yeah, events, fun. I mean, a lot of people want to go do yoga, floorball lessons. What's floorball? Never heard of floorball.
No?
I think we did a demo.
Yeah.
there's
Switch
something.
camera. Let's switch to your camera. I think we should do a floor ball.
Floorball, yes.
I see that requires some equipment though.
No, so it's a stick and a little ball, and let's say it's like ice hockey without not as physical, and inside, what else? Smaller goals,
Yeah.
quite technical, quite quick.
Okay.
That's
Never
it.
heard
do
of
you
it.
play like in the office space, like somewhere in the office? Or did you go out to do?
No, you would go to like a big kind of arena or something.
Like indoor football, like is version of football, and then like this is like indoor version of ice hockey in a way. Or the players are probably gonna
okay, got
disagree
you.
now totally, but
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, before we switch back to my screen, I think we've probably spent our time on the job descriptions. Job description for now.
Yeah,
Should we move
have.
over to
Let's
looking at a
move
couple
on.
of CVs?
So you found the job description that you like. Then
So what do you
might-
do to apply? So you have to first of all now look at what your skills are, I suppose, and look to that job description and say, what have I got that matches to this? At which point you're going to write some sort of CV up. Now the CVs we're going to look at, obviously, don't look at that. So we'll be looking more at the general format, how easy it is to read, and so forth. And maybe we could suggest what we think that person might be appropriate for. But when you're looking to apply for a role, I think it's important to say, do I match for this? And to sell yourself a little bit in the CV. It's difficult to say yourself 100% because you want to show some of the other things you can offer as well. If you're very specific and it's only that you're showing, people might say, well, okay, great, you fit that. But for a senior role, where that was a senior role, you want to probably be able to show there's other stuff as well. You've got that core skill that they're looking for. What else can you offer as well to sell yourself?
It's true.
So should we have a look at a CV?
Let's do it. So this is anonymized, so whoever sent it in, thank you very much. I think you might recognize who it is, but none of us do, and hopefully no one watching will do that.
Hopefully it's anonymised enough. I mean, these things, you can generally find them out.
And we've got people from all over the world watching. So we have Craig from
Have
the
we got
States.
anything to shout out to? Yeah.
Craig from the States, thanks for joining. Venkatesh from India, thanks for joining. Who else have I missed? Ethan from Southwest of the UK. Who else did I mention? Novaz. I can't remember what Novaz was. Was it Finland? I made that up. I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Something
Might be.
like that. And if I missed anyone else, I really apologise. Just say hello and chat again, and I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for joining. And don't forget, if you've got any questions, do ask. We're all more than happy to answer.
Cool. So looks like this person lives over towards the Los Angeles area. So they're in America. So there may be, as we look at the CV, some influence from that part of the world. It's just a single page, so it's very short. But I believe they were probably a junior person.
I try and keep mine to maximum 2 pages, though.
Yeah, 2 pages maximum. This is just a single page, so
If I could get to a single page, I'd love that.
it would be good.
I would try. I mean, what do you think from your side? Do you think if you got a CV that was one or 2 pages, is that good? Is that bad? I hate getting CVs that are 10 pages. Literally, just like in the bin.
Same.
Yeah, 10 pages, yes. But I had this discussion actually only on the weekend because I helped quite a few friends renewing their CV in my company or in just my friend field. And there was one person, he really said, no, I will only have 1 page. If it goes to 2 pages, I really can't deal. This is not ideal. And I said to him, in the end, if it's 1 page or 2 pages, it doesn't really matter. Because sometimes, even if it's on 1 page, if you then print it out, which normally an assistant does for the interview or whatever, it might even look a little bit too big, if that makes sense. If instead it goes on 2 pages, it looks a little bit smaller. So for me, as long as it's not over 2, 3, I mean, if you have 3 pages, you have to be very senior and have at least, I don't know, 20 years of experience or something. No, honestly, but 1 to 2 pages is totally fine.
Yeah, I think 2 pages is the sweet spot. 3, as you say, if you've got loads of experience, you really want to get that across. 3 is acceptable.
Yeah.
1, if you can get it that brief, and you can show some creative in doing that, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not printing these things out at A3, so it's not 1 page at A3, it is 1 page at A4.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, what I think is also very important, and this person, whoever sent this, thank you very much, did this as well, is giving the job title and kind of where it is. On this one, I see that, for example, the period of time is missing, which I would like to know
So
from...
the top some projects, right? I think they're starting with projects, not necessarily the jobs. So
Yeah.
I think down the bottom where it says additional information, those
I'm
are the
sorry.
actual roles,
yes,
I think.
Sorry, okay, apologies. But normally you want to keep it as consistent as possible, and I just see the first project has, I don't know, 4 bullet points or 5 lines, while the second one has only 2, and then the third one has 4, which is fine, but it's much easier for a first look to read if you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to focus on project, 3 bullet points max, and then 3, 3, 3. Of course, if it's not such a big project, if then there's only 1 or 2 bullet points, okay, but I would keep it as consistent as possible. So even on the small things, it's just easier to read if it's in the same structure all the time, with the same amount of bullet points, kept quite short, but still essential or big enough to, even if you have some keywords search, you will find something.
I think when I'm doing something like this, when it comes to sort of writing projects, it would be probably, I'd say 4 areas. The first one would be like a sentence that just says what the project's about. So you've kind of done it there by saying it's a website. The next thing I'd probably be what are either the technologies or my responsibility, one or the other next. So, but those are the 2 things you want to probably then cover is what the technologies are you've worked with, what the responsibilities. Depends, I suppose, if you're going for more of a management or a doing role, which way around those go. And then the achievement of the end. What was actually the outcome of this project? Did you make a whole lot of money? Did it improve some efficiency somewhere? So I think that there's probably 4 key things you want to get over when you're doing things as a project. But even if you're doing that from just a role and you're listing your roles, I think those are the 4 key things that I look for when I'm reading one of these things. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, me personally, I really like this one page thing, because then if it has like from this already, I can see the project exactly. I would agree with this, that I would just on the project put how long was the project, because that also tells, okay, you were there 2 months or 2 years, just a little bit.
Yeah. How long did it take to build this website? I mean,
and
you
exactly.
could build a website in a day, you could build it in a year. It's a big difference.
Yeah. For me, this would be really good. I like the kind of colors and the clarity. But yes, I would also add my role was this. And then if you're looking for some sort of project lead, team leading something, then maybe about the dynamics of the team a bit there. But really good. I would give you a call on this.
Yeah, I think there's probably enough there to have to poke some interest. I mean,
staying just in. So no, carry on.
Go on.
Staying in the project section. What does anything jump out for you? One thing really jumps out for me, like really, really jumps out. As in, I would call this person on this one thing.
Project 3.
Open source.
It says GitHub repo, so I can go straight away and see their code. Like I can go see if I'm happy. So I know they know how to use open source, or how to do open source. They know how to use Git in GitHub.
Yeah.
I can go see their work. I mean, if we click on it, it will know who the person is. So maybe it's best we don't click on it right now. But the thing is, I could go through their code, and if it's good, or even if it's not good, they've done something that most people haven't done.
Exactly.
So for me, I would probably call this person straight away. Definitely, just from that first bit. Forget all the skills, forget additional information. Obviously, the skills need to be relevant, but as long as there is a match. I mean, education for me is not so important. Additional info, jobs. It's interesting to see how long you've been at a place. Because if you're changing every 3 months, and obviously there's some alarm bells there. But yeah, for me, that GitHub repo link, that one should be at the top. Your first project. Actually, you should pull it out. Or you have got GitHub at the top as well. In the right at the top, there is, after the email, there is GitHub. I think that's just huge. That would go top of the pile straight away.
Yeah.
I'll have to apologise quickly on the video feed because I've noticed the videos of us are at the bottom, and because this is a one-page CV, I can't actually scroll to the very bottom and get it to shuffle up this page.
Okay.
So,
But I would really like to point out also it's like skills section here in that sense that I really like it. But like sometimes what you see is that people put here, so maybe like to GitHub or something, you can really emphasize those skills that you really want to use in the future. Because like sometimes you get that you have a list, and I really like how clear this is, and this is not too long, but sometimes you get a very, very long list, and then you kind of point out one or two things, and I think that's one thing people get. I'm talking about annoyed people now many times, but like annoyed person when like a recruiter external one calls and it's like, great, I've seen that you've been coding with like C++. We have this project, and then like you picked up the wrong thing. And sometimes in the CV it's hard to say like what you're actually interested in. And that I think open source would be a great thing that you can kind of find out like here emphasize this is what I'm now interested in. I can do all this, but this is what I want to do in the future. So it's not just past what I've done, because otherwise recruiters might not notice what's your future. Like to read that.
Yeah, some people put it on the very short kind of bio thing as well, just on top of kind of this page. That would maybe work. So then it's just like really short bio kind of intro. This is what I'm after.
With the skills, what you could also do, just as this example, because there are quite a few skills and it's amazing, maybe rate yourself in a sense that you can just put like, I don't know, a bar of 4 dots, and then it depends on how many dots it has, that's how much you know it. And you, of course, it's a little bit self-judgmental because of course you do it yourself, but then at least a recruiter can see, okay, HTML he has 4, but in Git he has only 1, okay, and C++ only 1 as well. So I would probably get him a job that is more in HTML than in Git or
you've got to be honest as well. If you're going to say I'm a rock star in everything, then
no, it will not happen.
We know that's not real.
It goes against you.
Yeah.
But I think you are right. You are judging yourself. But for me, it's not the amount. Like if it's out of 10, say for example, just for simplicity, if someone gave themselves a 10 on one and a 5 on the other, I just know the 10 doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
But I know the 5 and the 10, the 5 then half as good as their other one.
Yeah.
So I know they're stronger in that one.
Exactly.
Rather than they're a 10, they're an expert in it, because they might not be.
Well,
I think that's quite helpful for a recruiter as well. As soon as you see some kind of scaling within the skills, that's perfect, because you know, okay, I can highlight this to the client, I can highlight this to the, and so on.
That's interesting. So I've never really thought about how much that weighs, because to me, as someone hiring, I'm less fussed about seeing what level you're at. I want to know for the last 5 years, effectively, what have you been working with? Because you might have been absolutely fantastic at that 6 years ago, and you think, oh, I'm still fantastic at it. But things have moved along because technology changes. So if you've spent, in the last 5 years, you've done 2 years of time with Node, you've done a year with HTML and all the rest. Great, they're probably the more interesting things, what you've been in the last 5 years. Not that over the last 10 years I've done a year here, a year there, and a bit here.
Yeah.
And as such, I'm going to rate myself really high because I've got compounded 4 or 5 years, but things have changed so much. So it's slightly different, but I've never thought when I'm, on the rare occasion I do have a CV over to somebody, that they're interested in seeing what I would rate myself as. I might have to do that as an exercise, just rate myself against all these different things and say, yeah, you're rubbish at that, you're rubbish at that. I'll just end up miserable at the end of that.
But it's like they say, right, the more you learn, the more you realise how much you don't know.
Yeah.
So you kind of have that bell curve, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning, you're like, I know a little bit. And then you learn a little bit and you go, oh, wow, I know so much. And then you learn a little bit more and you go, oh my God, I'm awesome. And then past that bit where you learn loads and you go, I don't really know this very much. And it just kind of, you kind of got going the other way. Kind of the graph is, like kind of like that. So kind of you're going up the bit. then you're kind of coming down. I spelled that really badly, but you'll get what I mean.
Yeah.
But hot tip, add, so just to say, top tip or hot tip, add your rating across your skills.
Yeah.
And so people know what you're better at, and then what you're not so good at, and what you want to get better at as well. I think that's also important.
You can do that, include that as
Just
well.
remember, the first people this is going to fall across the CV when you're applying is going to be the less technical, the recruiters, the managers who don't have the specialist knowledge in these areas. So you want to make it clear for the people it's going to fall onto, not the people you might end up working with. The people you're working with, you can have a different relationship with those people when you get to the interview.
Yeah, definitely.
One more thing in the additional information, now I can't see if there is, but maybe there would be like a section for certifications or training, that something like this that you did, kind of related to the job. Maybe it's there. There's
nothing. The additional information, from what I can see, it says scale 16x something. 8th of March, that looks like it's probably an event. It's mentioning an expo. And then it's got another one that says LA Hacks, 31st of March to the 2nd of April. So again, looks like a long weekend. Yeah. It's not actually job roles. I originally said it looked like job roles, but when you look at the dates, it's more like this was an event at a weekend that
Which
they
is
went
good to include.
And what they did,
exactly,
it's good to mention them. Because it shows that
you could include
this person probably hasn't
certifications.
actually had necessarily a formal job. They've built a couple of websites for people. Maybe they've been freelancing a little bit doing those. And they've been to some events and they've picked up these skills, and they're now perhaps looking for their first actual role, which is fine. Everyone starts somewhere. But it's good to show that where your interests lie and what you're involved in.
Yeah, the events thing is really good for me, because I believe that's important, because you get to get pushed out of your comfort zone, you get to hear things, because there's so much going on out there, like we said. If you can use other people in the industry to filter down that information, someone says, oh, this is really good, have a look at it, then you go, right, okay, they've done a bit of filtering from their network, and just opens your eyes to it.
Should we open the next CV quickly, because I'm just conscious of time?
Oh yes, I'm on to the practice interview. So
the next CV is a person called Lucas. I'm going to make his. Can I make his a little bigger? Zoom. Here we are. So someone called Lucas. Hopefully, again, mostly anonymised. We haven't fully checked these over, but we couldn't spot anything off the top of our heads. He opens with a personal profile. He then lists his key skills. And below that, he has his employment history. We then go to a second page where it continues. I would say that it continues employment history.
It's quite long.
But it's just got a lot of key achievements. Okay, lots and lots going on. Okay, we'll have some good discussion on this. Goes to a third page where it then talks about education and training. Okay, so that should be appearing up for everyone to have a look at.
One thing maybe just to say, because last time we spoke about the cultural differences. Sometimes it is good. In some countries, people actually prefer 3 pages or even longer. So it also, you need to a little bit think about which country where are you applying.
So what are your initial thoughts? If someone was applying to one of your roles, I can see your facial expressions. Let's just switch to that. And let's do that again. Make it big. Right, let's see that expression. It was a bit of a concern, I think.
No.
I would say there's a lot of words all bunched together.
I don't want to offend anyone, but
read.
it's really long. Like
text heavy.
It's a lot of text heaviness. I think personal profile. I mean, I haven't read it through, but if you could just snip this down in maybe 2 sentences, max 4 lines, then there would be more than enough as a personal profile. Then of course you have the key skills, and sometimes less is more, especially when you have I saw key responsibilities, so I would really just make keywords or key sentences. And if you really think about it and you maybe read over a 5th or 6th time, you yourself notice it's actually not that important what I'm saying.
Maybe it's important, but I'm repeating myself, because I feel like that is my strength, that is what I want to do, so I'm just putting it on my bio, on my project, on here, on my training, so that's,
So then just below that, they list their key skills out. I mean, again, lots of bullet points here, robotic process automation, technical management.
The bit that jumps out for me is communication and. Like, I don't know why that's a bigger font, different
formatting's
spacing,
not right there.
like the spacing between the letters is a bit weird. Do they want me to see that? It will catch up for you.
No worries. Yeah. I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just a problem in formatting.
Yeah, I think that tells me that they're not particularly used to formatting Word documents.
Well, it
perhaps,
also makes
or-
me think they don't think about the detail, as in maybe they're not like, because that stands out. You're not going to miss that. If it was a typo, you might miss it. But to me, that stands out. It's always good to get your friend or your colleague to, I think, review, or family
Review.
member just to review it.
And I don't know how much we blanked out from Lucas or whoever, Fred,
Sure,
Steve,
yeah.
whoever. But what was also good in the other CV was that you had the name, first name, last name, and then you had all the contact details, the
I can
Git
bring that one
link,
back up
and
momentarily.
you have everything just there. And
Right at the
here
top of the page,
I'm
yeah.
missing kind of, I mean, I don't know how much we blanked out, but I'm
Sure.
missing a little bit the
How do I get in contact with you?
or the email. I mean, address nowadays, it doesn't really matter.
No,
but
but it's your
it's
contact
really
details.
email,
Yeah.
telephone, where can I call you, and what are your developer skills. So maybe
Yeah.
the link to your
A website,
GitHub or
perhaps,
whatever,
that might have
yeah,
something
exactly.
that shows an example. Yeah.
If I can just jump in and ask
your
a question.
LinkedIn.
Sorry.
That's it.
Sorry, I was jumping in and ask a question. Novaz is saying, degree, how important is that? And I wrote back saying, for me, maybe for your first job, a degree kind of helps because it gives you that, you've got a little bit more experience than somebody who hasn't got anything. But then after that, it's kind of, I don't know, I think like my degree, both of them I think haven't helped me work at all, wise. So they've been related, but it's not really that helpful anymore. It's not like it used to be. I think they're so out of date, or my degree was so, even looking back 20 years. It was so, my first job was nothing like what I got taught at school. We got taught so, not school,
Yeah.
university. It was so, and what are your thoughts? If you got someone without a degree, does it affect their job in tech?
I mean, I think out of 20 jobs that I have, 1 to 2, max 3 clients actually tell us if he has not been to university, we're not going to interview him.
Yeah,
And
same.
me as a recruiter, I of course then, for these particular jobs, I will not present you to the client if you don't have a degree. But as I said, that's probably
Yeah, you're talking
3
10, 15%.
out of 20,
Yeah.
you know? So,
And these are specific corporate
yeah.
places that then
Yes.
specific people want to go into, and that's where then you take that degree, kind
And
of.
that's reducing, right? I think Google recently
Yes,
said
definitely.
they're not looking for people with degrees, and they're lowering the barrier to entry because
Yeah.
there are so many talented people out there
Mm.
that won't have a degree for whatever reason, financial, age.
Mm.
and so
Well, we have to
forth.
bear in mind that software development is a very practical skill. It's not an academic skill, really. There are academic elements to it, don't get me wrong, but it's a much more practical skill than it is academic, I think.
Mm.
So whilst it's useful to have a degree because it shows that you can learn stuff and that you've probably, whilst you're at university, depending on what else you were doing there, that can be interesting. If you were running some social stuff,
Yeah.
if you were head of, I don't know, various clubs. I'm not sure which clubs to list off the top of my head.
Yeah, but like meetup groups or whatever, it shows more. Or even
Yeah.
if someone's got a YouTube channel, it shows.
There's so many more
audio and
things you can do at
visual.
university.
There's just so much more to it.
Yeah, I mean, if all you were doing at university was going out to nightclubs, getting drunk, and then missing your lectures, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like on grades, and I mean, most people I think nowadays don't even state it anymore, to be honest.
yeah, no.
Yeah, there are some actual, maybe some cultures that where the CVs come that they still very much put certain
Yeah.
grades still there. But I mean, that's another cultural thing where
Yeah.
you're sending your CV to, how much that kind of reflects what
Yeah.
what the recruiter is looking for.
So we'll look at the skills. I mean, they're very soft skills, I'd say. They're not technical skills that are listed again. So the top part, the intro, had a few technical skills hidden away in there. They're then soft skills. It then goes straight into employment history, and there's a lot of bullet points going on there. I mean,
It's
that's just
way too much.
That's why I was a bit surprised when I went to the second page to see, it's carrying on, and then it just keeps on going. I mean, I know it'll take a moment
They've
to update on the
obviously
screens.
done a lot, but the thing is, I think it's just you swamp people. That's the right
Yeah.
word. You swamp people with that, and it's just they're not going to look at it. I think you need to give you 3, 4. I don't know what the right number is, but a few points that are. These are the kind of
Yeah, what were the things you were most proud about? You've got to be able to pick 5
and
things.
if you
I
look
think.
at the key skills, just as an example, the first skill is robotic
Process.
Oh,
processing, and the last one is processing in automation. So it's basically the same thing.
It sounds very similar depending on where you come
And
from.
I would also recommend to only put skills that you can somehow rate and not not intangible skills like communication. Yeah, okay, everyone is communicative. Well, why?
It'd be
I'm
more
not looking
interesting to
at-
know
I'm
what
not looking
languages
at-
do you know, perhaps, because
Yeah, but
communication comes
that
more
is
down to the
something-
language barriers.
Yes, but that's
than-
something different that
It's
you would
different,
add
yeah,
to another
absolutely.
part. But just saying, I'm very communicative. Great job, like that's
It's someone who's,
nowadays, no?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You would just have to word it differently in a sentence later on. That's where you're coming from.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'd have to say for me, like I do like that how they like in this CV say like key achievements. Like that's really like put it in from your perspective. Like you do a lot of stuff, and this for me is one of those things that like it's kind of taking a CV to the future. Like I would assume that kind of also like that's what they're proud of. That's what they like doing. That's how I would translate that in my mind in a way. So like I like that how it's done.
The thing that
Just
gets me is that
shorter.
that first role, it was February 2017 to present, and present being, it was a month ago, so they've probably been there for just over 2 years, a little over 2 years, and they've listed a lot. I mean, that's if I was seeing a bullet list of that many achievements, I'd expect to see that they've been there for 10 years, 15 years perhaps, to have such a long list. I mean, every year there's probably only really 3, maximum 5 things that you could say these are the things I've really done in this year, and 5 things would be quite impressive to say 5 big things. So in 2 years I'd expect a maximum of 10 bullets if they really wanted to detail everything out, because there were so many good things they've done. That's still, I think there's still just too much there for the time frame that was involved. Think about the time frame that you were there for a little bit as well, because if you're there for 10, 15 years, that's very different to being there for 2, 3 years.
Which is also not good. I think if someone's been in a job role for so long, they get comfortable, they get relaxed. There are exceptions to the
varies, it
rule.
varies.
No, but I think a lot of people do. Like, I remember interviewing one person, I came up being at Delarue, he said, 20 years in the defence industry, I'm really good at coding, got them in. You couldn't even do the simplest basic thing that juniors can do. And I was like, but you said you got 20 years. To be honest, I've got 1 year 20 times. I said, you haven't even got 1 year, you've only got 6 months 40 times. And I was just not wasting my time. And it just really annoyed me because they were really reaching like way above. They had the experience in terms of age and time, but they just done the same thing for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of bugged me.
Yeah, it depends what you get. I mean, so many organisations are different. The big organisations, I think that's a big suffering for them. If you join a big organisation and you're there for 10 years, they don't change much. If you're in a startup world and the startup, they keep pivoting a lot and changing a lot, that can be quite dynamic, quite exciting, perhaps not so good for the startup that's doing it, because they're probably not doing too well, but good for the employee because they're experiencing lots of things, and they also see failure perhaps quite a few times, and you learn a lot from failure because you might have not been the reason for it. So it really depends on where you are. If you're in a startup for 10, 15 years, and you can see some of the history of that startup, and they've jumped around, they started doing this, they were trying that, they were then doing this, then that means you probably have had a bit more flexibility. But if you've been in a big company, I'm not going to name some, I can think of some off the top of my head, but there are some big companies that are good as well. I mean, I know I've got friends at places like, I'll say places like Deloitte, for example. They have some really good sort of research departments that really try out all the new tech and play around with it all, and they want to see what's going on. But that's very different if you're in a research department versus you're in the maintenance department, let's say.
And what I would say definitely like on that, like good to like point out in your CV, like there are things like recruiters, like if you've been 20 years in the same company, there are certain things that a recruiter might go in their mind like, oh, these are like possibly like the challenges with this, like are they used to change, are they ready for change, have they been doing, or then if you're like more like junior, like you've been doing shorter periods of time, then there are the other like, oh, do they like just jump around, and like the company is looking for someone to stay and grow. So like also kind of point out in your CV, those are good to keep in mind, but recruiters might kind of go like, oh, that's the challenge in a way. So kind of you can attack them already and kind of mention like, oh, I've been doing different stuff, there has been change, or yeah, I was short time because there was this project, and then obviously it's short, it's you have to summarize, but
Yeah. I'm conscious of time.
So am I.
I just want to ask one question about references available on request. Do references, do you request references, or would you say, I need 2 references, I'll go and find 2 friends who can write really good references, and just, like, as in how do you do that part, I suppose?
So I will never go behind your back to check your references.
You would ask. As in, when you say go behind your back, as in you would never go to an previous employer.
Without
to-
asking the permission. I would never do that, and there's so many people still that do that, and
Yeah.
I just find it so absurd.
I wouldn't want that either. Like
No, and I get calls randomly from someone. Do you remember this person worked at this company? How do you feel about him or her? And that's weird. But we do. I mean, reference check is quite a standard like stage of our process. So then, but it's more like characteristic reference.
Yeah. What I would say is maybe don't even state it on the CV, just say at the bottom references possible if requested or if.
Yeah, like in this one.
Yeah, in this one. So you don't actually put a reference to everyone, but you just say if you want one, then I can give you one and I have some. And of course, check with the reference as well that it's okay that they've
Always
been called.
check. Always
I was saying
check.
about the microphone.
You'd be a little bit closer.
I'm too far away. So basically, I would always say ask the person that you then give away that they are okay, that you are. So I also had a coworker of mine, he said to me, oh, Lenora, can I put you as my reference as this and this and that and that? And I said, of course, but good that you told me, because if they would call me out of the blue, I would be a little bit awkwardly
and
touched.
I have had that. I think I mentioned it last time, and I still feel about 10 years later. So Katia, who worked with us at De La Rue, was awesome. When we all left, she didn't. I don't think she gave me a heads up. I'm sure she didn't give me a heads up. And then I got a call. I was applying for work at the time, and I was getting some recruiter calls and all the rest. And just driving up the wall. So this recruiter called, and I didn't realise that it was to get a reference for her. And literally was so rude to them on the phone. And she almost didn't get the role, I think, because she did get the role because she's awesome. But if she hadn't got it, I would have felt so bad. But I think if she'd said, you're going to get a call from this person, it's just for me, then it's different. But I was just getting like 20 calls a day. No, I'm not interested. Without even letting them finish like what they were saying. So
Thank God we didn't know you back then, Eddie.
Well, I was going to say, there was a period of time, I think about 5 or 8 years ago, where recruiters, something happened, I don't know what it is, but yeah, there was just calls going left, right and centre. I think because LinkedIn had perhaps recently got started, everyone was getting really into it, and they were just finding your contact details and they were calling you up, and yeah, it just went crazy. Yeah, about 8 years ago, I think it must have been, when LinkedIn was still becoming popular.
Has it changed?
It's not so bad now, but that's mostly possibly because I've deleted everything on LinkedIn.
I removed all my stuff off LinkedIn, so it has got better. But maybe because of that. Because LinkedIn is a tool for recruiters, not for, I think, people. I use it for contacts to and chat, but contact list. But you know, it seems more recruiters kind of use it to go search for people. So I do want, and they're the ones that are paying for it, right? We don't pay for it.
Yeah,
so,
Sales Navigator.
Yeah, exactly.
I think LinkedIn is starting to push a little bit more to the social side, which is good. Because there's a lot of business people on there, whereas other socials, I'll say it's for a slightly younger audience, let's say.
Yes.
So LinkedIn is perhaps for a slightly more experienced audience. So I think there's a good social side of LinkedIn coming out. So I might have to start getting a bit more involved on there.
Yeah, while it lasts, because they all have that at the beginning and then they kind of lose it. So we haven't got too long left. So I'm quite keen to do the exciting part, which is kind of like, I don't know, interview questions, I guess, and practice, and then we can critique the answers if it was like good or not, and see your different views and opinions. On the
So the
answers.
CVs have arrived, and you're getting that call from the recruiter. So who wants to interview Eddie?
Well, I'm gonna go first. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Just ask me some questions. It could be anyone, right? You could alternate the questions. Like, what if I picked up the phone and said, "Hey, I've seen your job A. I really like it. I'm perfect for the role." I guess what would be if we can show people that kind of process, or concise. I appreciate it might be 30 minutes to an hour, but maybe we can pick up some.
Where's that initial call with the recruiter? Right? The recruiter's going to call up and is going to ask you a couple of questions to ascertain a few things. What are the things that when you first engage and talk to someone about that you're asking them, and maybe a bit of a deeper meaning as to why you might be asking those as well, perhaps. So I know that one of the common questions I often get asked, and this is perhaps from the contract industry, is what's your current rate? I mean,
Yeah, but that's the last thing.
It is normally the last thing, but there's obviously a hidden kind of thing down there because you're probably thinking a little bit about margins, a little bit. There's a few things going on, so it'd be interesting just to understand why some of that thinking goes on and explain some of those things. But obviously, that isn't the first question. The first question is more kind of, hi, tell me what kind of skills you've got and why are you looking for a job now and what have you been doing for the last few years? There's those kinds of questions. But yeah, I'll open the floor. And what are the sort of the initial questions you might ask when you engage with someone? And as I said, if you can explain a little bit of why you might be asking those.
I can start. I always go with very, very informal approach. So it's always more about that person, and of course it depends if that person is calling me, and then I kind of tell a little bit about Norcloud or any other company than in the past, but then it's very much about that person, the motivation, the kind of steps in the career, and then that's the point where you need to kind of sell yourself and sell the aspirations to really kind of stand out there, there and then.
I think it's quite open-ended, just like, tell me a little bit about you.
And what would you like to hear, I guess, to kind of perk up your ears? If I said, hey, I'm Eddie and I'm a developer, you're going to be like, you don't want blood out of stone, right? You want someone to sell themselves a bit, like you said, but without using the word rock star or ninja or cameras on you, especially me, rock star, ninja. Don't use those BS words. I think, I just think they mean nothing, right? They just don't mean anything. So,
Again, it depends who you're talking to.
Yeah.
do you think so?
Some people want to hit. Remember, you're doing a bit of a sales job. Whilst to us, don't say that ever to us. If we hear those things, you're gone.
Done.
But when you're trying to get that initial engagement going, I think some people get excited when they hear those things. So you've got to excite the audience to get into the job. So it's
the wrong people, I think. Because I'll be hiring other ninjas and rock stars, and then you're going to have this kind of toxic culture where everyone's a ninja and rock star, where actually they're all just faking it until they make it. It doesn't work, right?
So there's two sides to the advice, I suppose. Experience tells you. When you're a bit more experienced, you've got a better way of selling yourself. You can say, I've done this, I've done that. When you're trying to accelerate your way through a career and you're saying, right, I've only done 3 years, but I can say, yeah, I've done this, I've done that. And you can list off all these different things that you may even have a list in front of you that you're just reading off, saying, I've done this, I can do that. Yeah, I'm an absolute amazing person. I would hope that on the recruiter side that would concern them, that they're hearing so much. But depending on who you actually engage with, it could excite them as well, because they think, oh, this person's fantastic. They're going to be able to do any role I want to put them into. So it'd be interesting to hear what you think when you hear those things.
You have to be careful with that, I think.
Yeah, and you can always, you can always do a little bit of research on who are you going to talk to. So that's going to help. But, I mean, if I get like a 15 minutes intro, for me that's too much. so it's that's just like a normal discussion when you meet somebody on the street or in an event, whatever, and you ask them one question and there goes 15 minutes talk about themselves. That's not really any more selling yourself. That's you need to summarize.
Well, you're basically there to do an elevator pitch, right? So an elevator pitch is the concept of you're in a lift and you've got about 1 minute before you get from your floor to wherever floor you're going, and you've got someone in front of you that you can sell yourself to. You've got 1 minute. What are you going to say about yourself? So that's the thing you should practice, is in 1 minute, what would sell you to, I'll say anybody, but to that job.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to think about. 10 seconds of saying, hi, I'm a developer, I can do this job, is probably not quite enough. But you say, if you're going more than a minute or so, you're starting to lose people.
Yeah, and I would say, like, definitely, sometimes you see, like, someone has been practicing it, and then it's like this speed talking, like a and then you get like, no, like, let's, because the thing what I would say is, like, most likely you're talking to kind of a salesperson when you're talking to a recruiter, more or less,
External,
depending a bit. External especially. Internal might have a background in it, might be really good at it, might focus on other things, depending a bit who you're talking to. So I would say that, and also it's important that you see yourself in a good way as a salesperson. And I would say the one big thing is that you are able to read the person, you're able to speak to person the best way. So what like recruiter would do, what I would do a lot is that I kind of, is this person someone like, you slowly explain something, or like you are really like fast and you go to the point straight away, or like, so kind of if your pitch is 15 minutes, you don't hear anything from the other side pretty much. I would say it's a little bit of a bad sign.
You also probably don't want to put that person in front of your client either, because you don't want them to go into an interview and they're going to spend 15 minutes just talking at the person on the other side of the table. They might be really excited and all the rest of it, but that's still too much. You don't want to upset your client. They'll turn around and go, oh gosh, why did you send this person to me? I've just spent the last 20 minutes hearing stuff that has just gone.
Yeah. You want like a dialogue, and you want to get to know the person on the other side in a way, also because that makes it better conversation. I would say that's how I usually feel. If people on the other side want to have a conversation with me, not necessarily not get to know me, but get to know the role, get to know the company, that's a good sign. Not that they want to just sell themselves to me, even if they also want to do that.
Mirror matching.
Yeah.
So what comes after you've heard a bit about the skills they've got and the sort of the interests and where their passions lie? What else might you ask them about, or is that it? Is that all you're interested in?
No. I would say for me, next thing is in terms of relocation and family.
Yeah.
So I will go into the fact, are you open to relocate? If it's a perm job, are you open to travel? If it's a contract job, and then kind of maybe go even a little bit more personal than you should and ask like, okay, you're not open to travel, why? Are you not open to travel because you have a family, or because you're just not the type, or because with this, and I always ask this, because with this you can, if someone has a family, I would never ever even propose a traveling job. If the person says I don't want to travel because I have a family, I wouldn't even propose one.
Well, it depends on the age of the family, though. If it's a young family, you're right. But if their family are a secondary school, university, that's different.
Yeah, but then he would also maybe be a little bit more open. But if he just says, I wouldn't be open to travel because if I travel, then I would relocate or something like this, you find out a lot about how much you can not push, but how much you can then go back and say, listen, I know you were not that keen, but look, it's not even that far, it's only half an hour, would that be still too far, or is 5 minutes too much, or whatever. So that would be kind of my second pick, so that I can...
That is so funny. Like now I can already hear the difference, because I used to think kind of like this as well, and it's very much kind of a motivational thing as well. But you go really, it's like, am I now wasting my time and your time? Let's just cut the crap and get on with this exact thing. But now I would go more about the kind of technical stuff, just not like as a technical test, but more screening.
But I thought we had done this with the first.
I think we covered.
Sorry,
I thought we did that with skills.
with around
so
skills.
we've
We've done
technical.
that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought that
Okay.
I would also I would go into technical and then relocation.
Yeah. Then maybe I would go into more expectations on the role. So maybe I guess relocation is one, but I wouldn't go too personal, just because of all discrimination laws and all this. Like I don't yet go to that personal in that sense. But then I do go quite sort of direct on salary, for example, or the whole, not just the base salary, but the kind of benefits and the whole sort of compensation that they're looking for, whether it's independent training budget or the conferences or something like this. But just because that's not really something that I can then negotiate further, you know.
So I suppose when you get to the salary side, I know, well, are there any other steps I suppose you want to discuss before we get to the salary side? Because I know that's something that a lot of people probably worry a lot about when they're looking at jobs. But before you get to that conversation, is there anything else you'd want to talk about, or would it then largely be going into the salary side? Yeah. So I suppose again, there's a big difference here now between probably the internal recruitment and the external recruitment.
Yeah.
The internal recruitment, you're probably more trying to sell that position because you know what's there, whereas the external recruitment, you're probably thinking a little bit more about the margins as well and that kind of thing. Certainly on the contract side, perhaps more so than the perm, because the perm is normally, so that for those that haven't perhaps seen both sides, perm typically you're looking at the first year salary, you will take a percentage of, whereas with a contract role, it will be a percentage for the life of that contract. If it keeps getting extended forever and ever, it will keep on going. So that's probably where that's where a lot of the money, that's where most of the money I think recruiters gets made, on the contractors, more so than the perm people. But I'm just interested to hear what the thoughts are. Maybe I've got it straight away right and you don't want to say any more, but...
Or wrong.
Or wrong. But yeah, I mean, I suppose people that want to maximise what they can get out of a salary, what's the best approach to doing that? Is it just finding the right job, or is there flexibility normally and you will still get your margin worried about separately, or is that all you're worrying about up front is the margin versus trying to get this person into their job? Because I think there's a lot of opinion from people that are applying to jobs that I'm being squeezed on every penny I can get and they're probably making loads of money out of me. So I think there's an opinion out there of some of that. So I just want to quash some of that a little bit and hear what people think when it comes to that part of the conversation, and what's the best answer people could be giving you as well.
And are you open about the commission that you make?
Are we open?
It doesn't make so much difference.
But if I said, right, you're getting whatever, what's your cut on that? I would always ask.
I would have said always, what's my cut?
Me too.
But I don't think that generally. But this is very much external. I think I have too much internal hat on nowadays that I'm just like...
It's good to get the whole stream today. It's good to get two different views. But this question, maybe is more for the external.
I mean, I don't know. I think that it doesn't even make that much difference if you... I'm always acting in the best way of the expert, the candidate, because I think important is you really have to, before you speak with a recruiter, know what you're worth and what you want. And then of course what you're worth and what you want is not always the same.
Sure.
Yeah. But then let the recruiter help you to also understand what you are worth. Because that's actually something, recruiters know the market, they know how much you're worth, they know what kind of the market average salary is. So before you even say something out loud, maybe just go and say, well, what's the market saying? We as a recruiter, we hate that, honestly. We hate it, because of course we want to know how much you earn first of all. But it's always quite good, because then the recruiter can tell you, well, we have a range between, I don't know, in Germany, 55 to 70,000, depends on how much experience you have. And of course for us, it's actually beneficial if you earn more, because the more you earn, the more we earn too, to be honest. So our best interest, and I said that to so many experts, they always said, yeah, but you're underestimating me. And I said, listen, for me, the more you earn, the more I earn. So the more you earn, the better it is for me as well. So I will do anything I can to get you the highest salary possible. As easy as that, to be honest. And that's just the way it is.
And I think that's the right way to think, and that's what I expect. That's what I expect personally.
The more you
I've
earn,
spoken
the
to
more
other people
I
that
earn.
don't think that way. That's the reason I asked the question in that style.
Yeah.
But
it is the client, the company who is who is paying for you.
Yes.
So is it your interest, not interest? I know it's a bit. I guess it's a bit of a conflict, right? Because you're getting paid by the company, but if you get more money for the candidate, you get more money. So
No.
I guess
No, the more money, yes, but the thing is, the client of course gives us also range. They say, listen, Leonora, we're looking for a senior developer. Maximum we can spend, because we also pay you, of course, is 60,000. We cannot go higher. And then if I go there and say, listen, he actually asked for 62, could we maybe do something? Probably they say yes, but sometimes it also happens, no, we gave you the maximum of 60, we can't do. And then if we then go back and say, listen, Eddie, we really can only give you 60, and that's the highest I could go with the client, I'm really sorry, then you have to understand it, I think.
Yeah.
there has to be some trust there, and that's the thing, I suppose. It depends how
Because
quickly.
we will always
if I get a
try
call
to
back
get the
5 minutes
highest.
later and get told, no, I've just spoken to them, and you think, have you really spoken to them?
No.
But yeah,
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I would expect that you would actually speak to them. But I suppose the other thing that can be problematic when you start talking salaries is, and as you say, sometimes the client, when they say 60,000, that's what they're hoping for, but you put the right candidate in front of them, they suddenly go, you know what, this person,
Yeah.
if they want 80,000, I'll pay them 80,000.
From 60 to 80, no.
It's a big jump, but it's not unusual.
It won't happen.
Well, I've done it, but
Yeah?
Yeah,
I've
'cause
had a
that
rate
has
and I've said
happened
I'm
to me.
looking for 50, and I've ended up hiring at 80. I've done it before now, because the right person, for me, the salary is less important than finding the right person.
Yeah.
Salary to me is the last thing that's on my list when I'm hiring. If the right person comes across my table, I mean, this is why I hired Eddie many years ago. The right person came across the table, and I was like, oh, but he's after this one. But you know what? From the people I've seen, he is that much better that, yeah, we'll
It's
do
worth
it.
Okay.
But
So-
it's what I would say is like agencies, like externally, you kind of learn that with your client, like. Do they do that? Do they not do that? So
Yeah.
I think that's the benefit of going through external.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've been asked like, oh, but maybe they don't take me because they also have to pay for you, so I'm more expensive, and that's why they don't give me the money. And yeah, I totally understand that point of view. But like, there's also that I can kind of give them like, you just impress them and you can push them in a way. Like I can give you that.
Yeah,
like I know
true.
the companies, and then I know like, I'm sorry, this company is very like
Strict.
they have this, but then in a year, like person I've recruited there is working there, and they
Yeah.
got this salary, but they want you to impress them when you work there. Like you can give these little tips so you know beforehand. But obviously, it's all about building a trust with that recruiter,
Yeah.
that you trust what they say. They
It
trust
depends
what
if
you
that
say.
person's in control of the budget as well sometimes, because sometimes
Yeah.
they're not in control of the budget themselves. They've been just dictated to say, this is what you've got to hire this person with.
Yeah.
Whereas if that person's in control of the budget, they'll know, oh, actually, you know what, I can just take a bit out of this and put it to there, and I can shuffle the numbers around, and it's just
Yeah.
a numbers game then for the people that are actually in control of the budget. So it's always, It really
Yeah.
depends on who you're in front of, absolutely, yeah.
Exactly, and we have to also remember that some cases it's not from the same budget. There's a headhunting budget and then there's a salary budget. This headhunting budget we might not stretch that much, but the salary budget for the right people we can be a bit more flexible. We can negotiate based on the personality and the stuff that they're gonna bring. So it's not so much that, you know, if I don't get this salary, it's because the headhunter is taking 10, 20,000 from my salary.
So I think we've spoken salaries enough, and I'm conscious of time running out, but I want to just ask, so when the next step after you've gone through that, so you've had the conversations, you've now said, right, okay, I'm going to put you in front of the client and send you off to the interview. What kind of prep activity happens before sending them to the actual interview? Would you normally have lots of prepared questions? Obviously, you possibly sent some other people to that client in the past. You know the kinds of questions they're going to ask. What's kind of the prep thing that then goes on before then sending? I mean, we're not going to talk about the actual interview with the client because we haven't got any clients in the room. It'd be interesting to get some actual recruitment people that actually talk about the interviews they do in at some point in the future.
Yeah.
But that last step before sending the candidate out the door to say, right, you're going to go meet the client now. What's the kind of call like there? What sort of
It's so
advice
much
are you
work.
giving them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would personally say was I've been hearing Anna doing it and I think you're really good at it because it can be very basic things what you go through, like starting from appearance even, like something like that, and then go into those questions. But I think you've been good. I've been listening.
Yeah, again, this is kind of for externals because I do prep still candidates that go to meet kind of our, let's say, like hiring managers, but it's a
Yeah.
little bit different because externally you're kind of the candidate that you presents also kind of you.
Yeah. So of course you will redo his CV if it's not good. So you kind of fresh it up a little bit, whatever you think is not the best or can be left out or whatever. So we do actually quite a lot to help you guys, all of you.
I just want to admit, that really bugs me. So I always send my work, my CV in a PDF, and hoping you can change.
No,
as
but
much
we
as
always ask.
possible
So we always ask for the Word
Yeah,
document.
and I always say no.
For permission, yeah.
Tough.
Permission, yeah.
Yeah, I've had
And
those
then
cases.
what we do is, of course, we will prep you for the interview. Or at least I always did. Like I would say, okay, look, you have an interview on Monday. Let's prep on Thursday, and then if you feel, let's do it I always leave one day in between, so that I always said if you don't feel comfortable after the first time, then call me the next day before you actually have the interview, so that if you have any additional questions, you have the whole day, the whole night to think about it, prep for yourself, and then if you don't feel comfortable, you have this whole day where you can call me, let me know, and then you will be good for the day where you actually have the interview.
So do you often have more information available, I suppose? So after you've gone through your CVs and you've done your, and we're at this prep step, would you have already expected to have given all the information you know over, or would you have held back some information that you're going to now share at this point so that they've now got more things to think about? I suppose it's one of those, it might vary, but what would be, say, the typical situation?
Depends on the
do you sometimes have more
client.
things, yeah?
Yeah, I would say for me
Preference.
it definitely is in a way, like 'cause then they are like really ready to go out. Because how I would see it, I would think, but then obviously that would be one thing, like great to get a feedback, like if that's not the case. But I would see it like now they are in a mindset that I'm actually going, I'm gonna meet these people, so they're gonna remember this stuff better if we go at this point. That like, for example, these kind of questions, you're gonna meet this kind of a person, and they're gonna be maybe asking this, and they are super informal or they're super formal or like whatever it is, to kind of take those what you, if you think about an interview where you go and you don't know anything about it before and you're like, should I put a tie on, should I put a, what kind of, like even those basic things, like kind of go like, okay, you can go in like a jeans and like some kind of shirt, or like don't do that, like that's a no-go straight away at the reception, you can be turned around, like kind of like those, like, so you don't have to think about it, you can go like comfortable, this is nice, and then like it's gonna be like they want to get to know you. The main thing in the first conversation is gonna be there's a test, or the first conversation is gonna be very technical, or the first conversation is gonna be very, I know we talked about it
Informal.
last time, it is the informal conversation first, good or not, but you get the head of it, so you can be in a set of like I pitch myself or I go to technical and I really show what I can do.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's what we aim for at least.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I'm conscious
I was
of
going to ask
time.
one last thing before
Another
you do it.
one.
No,
You
it's
keep
just-
having one more
this is just to
question.
close it all off. So this is the final
wouldn't
part. So
hire him, would
they've
you?
been to the interview now, and they've come back and they
okay.
call you up afterwards. what's the sort of conversation that happens after the interview? Obviously, you're interested in knowing their feedback. Would you say the advice you've given them resonates back to you, that it was good advice? Do you often hear from people saying, you know what, the stuff you told me, it just didn't happen? I mean, what's sort of then the last thing that happens? Obviously, the very last thing will be, you do get the job or not, but that's irrelevant. But what's that sort of the feedback generally like from these things?
You try and get as much information as you can for the
Yeah.
next times, or for helping other people out, or also to just know yourself, because of course you, like when someone when someone has an interview, you're also sitting there and you think like, okay, good, he's been in there 45 minutes, why hasn't he called me?
That's a good sign.
So okay, that could be good. Yeah, okay, so do you think he's doing good? And then you ask someone else, I mean, he was good, yeah, but then this and this. So you are of course also kind of sitting on hot coals, even though you don't think so, but we really check the time and we say like, okay, 1.5 hours, okay, that's usually normally when they go out. So you are really happy if someone calls you back after the interview and tells you the best possible things. And then of course I'm super interested also, how did it go, what are your feelings, because then you can already kind of predict what you give the client as a feedback. Because for me it's also very important, if I feel that you haven't enjoyed it, then I will tell already the client. I would say, listen, yeah, probably you found him amazing, or maybe not, or whatever, but he wasn't that thrilled, or he didn't enjoy it that much. So I think that if you want to really hire him, you will have to offer him much more money, for example, or much less, or much more flexibility in relocating, or blah 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 blah. And you can already redirect them a little bit in the important points that you as a developer have.
I think it's also, so before I jump in, does anyone else want to add any more to that?
I would definitely agree, and it's it's prepping already for that possible second interview. It's for the that, let's say, developer, what would you want more, and then we go to client, what would they want more, and what kind of giving those, and obviously being very open about it. It's not secretly oh no, that was really bad. Oh yeah, client thought the same. We're not doing that gossiping thing, but we're okay, this could be for both sides. What could be better next time? So you meet, or then it's it's not gonna meet.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important to certainly call back after, because calling back after you helping build that relationship with the recruiter as well. Even if that job isn't for you, the recruiter knows, that was a good person, they gave me the feedback, we had a conversation. Next role that comes along, you're more likely to be thinking about that person again and call them up and say, are you still looking for work?
Yeah.
But there's also that opportunity as well, that after the interview, I know I've come out of a number of interviews in the past and I wish I'd said that. It's an opportunity to also say to the recruiter, I really wish I'd said this during the interview. You talk to them, you just mention it. And there's that opportunity to get that word in. If there was that, just sort of one thing you think, why didn't I say that? That could have been a deal changer.
Yeah.
Then there's those opportunities still. They still happen after the interview. It's still going on. You're not finished necessarily.
Yeah.
So there
yeah,
are
because
still
we of
important
course
things.
call the client and we say, by the way, Andrew really wanted to point out this and this because he forgot it, because he was so nervous, but he really enjoyed it. This and this is really changing. And then they say okay, good. Thank you very much, It's good.
Or even sometimes admitting mistakes. You might have said during the interview something that actually you realised was completely wrong. And you think, why did I say that? And you can still say, I said this really stupid thing. I should have said this instead. And again, these things can all get back. So when someone says, but you was talking about this, and you go, well, actually, I've just got off the phone with him, and he did say to me that he made this big mistake. Sometimes admitting mistakes, if you realise them, depends how keen you are as well. If you decided during the interview you're not interested, then you'd have to worry about saying these things. But if you are still really keen, saying these things afterwards can go a long way sometimes.
Yeah.
Shall we recap?
Let's have a quick recap.
Let's have
Go
some
on.
recap. I guess some tips and maybe some action. So action from me. I'm gonna jump straight in. GitHub link on your CV. If you haven't got it, not interested, you're fired before you even started. No, okay, seriously, do put it on there if you have got it. And don't put a GitHub link if it's completely empty. I have people going, I've got a GitHub link, and I've put it on my CV, and you go to it, and literally, it's like they've just...
Blank.
It's blank. It's as if they've just created it. They haven't. They might have created it a year ago, but they've done nothing. So you've just wasted my time, and you've pissed me off even more now, because you try to just, by putting a link, think that it's better. So... yeah, don't try and hide shit. It's gonna come. I shouldn't swear. Don't try and hide. Bleep. It will come out, right? I need a bleep button on this Stream Deck. So it will come out. So I think And if you're active on social and say, I don't know, you reply to stuff on Stack Overflow, my tip is do that. I know we didn't talk too much about that, but that's still my tip. Who wants to go next?
I would say the CV length, 1 or 2 pages, and just the format of it. Clear, simple, boom.
Yeah, and I would say just be yourself, honestly. Like, ask for help, ask other people for opinions, ask people that you trust, like parents or brothers or maybe girlfriends or whatever, because they will always tell you the truth. And yeah, just be yourself in the interview, in the CV, in everything you can. Just be real, kind of.
Yeah, be authentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have the same, like, you have the technical skills, bring them up, but also bring up your personality. Like, you don't have to kind of hide it. Like, like companies are really looking for personalities also in that sense, that what can you bring, what do you want to do in the future, and also the recruiters straight away, like you're building your image through the whole process. So it's not just those interviews. So, yeah.
I've got a tip in the chat. Okay. I'll let you go next.
I was going to say, do you want to hear anything from me? Probably not, really.
No, we do.
Tip
You're
from
very
me.
opinionated, so it's good.
Well, there's just lots of factors.
I'm not saying it's
that make it all
right.
up.
I'm just saying it's good.
But I think the most important thing, I suppose, when you're going through trying to get a job and you're going through interviews, CVs, job descriptions, it can be quite daunting, certainly for those that are starting out in the whole process. And you will get a lot of times that things get rejected and you fail. So I think the thing for me is not necessarily the preparation and the pre-steps we've talked about, looking at job descriptions, looking at CVs, but it's asking for feedback at the end of it all. Whether you get the job or not, try and see if you can get some feedback at the end of it all. See what you can improve next time, iterate on it, get better at it, because it will improve. It's a process you go through, iterating through it, getting better at it. So for me, it's not necessarily the things we've been talking about right now, but a culmination of the whole thing and going into it the next time round, learning from it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's a really good point. Always get feedback, because no matter if it went well, you can still maybe get some constructive feedback and do better next time. Or if it went badly, then you can definitely do kind of better next time. So Novaz on the stream says they'd prefer to hire someone who knows where to obtain the information over someone who knows the information. I gotta agree with this, because there's so much to learn in tech, you can't remember it all. So I think a lot of the time is, well, if you don't know the answer, that's fine, but where would you look for it? If they go, oh, just Google it, then that's no interest. If they know, like for example, I don't know, I love my design patterns, my architectural design patterns. I know quite a few of them, I try to learn them all the time, but there's so many you can't learn them. But I know where I would go. If you said, oh, what about this pattern? I wouldn't Google it. I'd know, like, Source Making website is really good for design patterns in different languages, diagrams, etc., and examples. So for me, if someone answered like that, I would take that as an acceptable answer, because they know where to look for it. So I think that's really important.
But you also have to hope during the interviews people aren't going to try and trip you up with some of those questions, because some people just ask the difficult questions thinking, oh, I'm going to ask this question knowing that there's no way someone's going to answer it, and they're trying to almost trip you up on purpose, because they want to hear that kind of answer. They want to see how resourceful are you, because whilst, as Eddie says, there's loads of design patterns out there, but there's only probably a handful you use frequently that you know off the top of your head. And if they ask you one of the ones that isn't part of that common stuff, then there's telltale signs sometimes that people are trying to trip you up a little bit and just see how you respond during the interview.
It's more the response.
Solution finding.
I just want to give a shout out to Connor, who's saying he's working on his project, on his Flask project, and he's got us on in the background. So, thanks for joining, thanks for the support. So yes, I think we should. We've kind of given our top tips. We've done a bit of a recap. It's coming up to 8:30 UK time. I think it's time to probably end it there. Unless anyone has anything else they wish to add, any burning desires.
I think we're good. Which we say farewell to our
Thank you so
lovely
much.
guests for joining us.
Look forward to next time.
Yeah.
Plan for something maybe in a couple
Thank
of
you.
months' time again and continue.
Yeah, we'll
Thank you for
have a
having
part
me.
4. It will be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.